Yo, thank you for tuning in again to this podcast. This is the second episode of the WarMech recording about Plants vs. Zombies. If you haven't listened to the first episode, which I uploaded last week, then please listen to that episode. You will not really understand what's going on in this episode if you haven't listened to the previous one. Just go to the previous episode and listen to it, and then boom, you're ready for this episode. This episode, I feel like, man, these two parts were so good. I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite recordings I ever had, and I'm currently playing through Plants vs. Zombies once again as a casual, basically. But after this, I will try some speedruns of it and see how it feels, because I got so hooked to this game, to the speedrun, because of this recording. Hope you have similar experience. Hope you got also hooked with this episode, with the second episode, or you got already hooked with the first episode from last week. But yeah, now enjoy the second part of the recording, where we look into some more deeper mechanics and some, like, how to get into this game. Have fun. Actually, I first of all, we will continue this episode because this is awesome. I love this episode, but like, I actually get excited to speedrun this game on myself right now. Like, I want to speedrun this game like right after this episode because it's amazing. I feel like overall, I always say to people, speedrunning is not just about like learning the fastest strategy or fastest tricks. It's like so much about, especially in the early days of learning a speedrun, it's about just getting experience in that game and getting knowledge about this game. And I feel like Plants vs. Zombies is like the ultimate, like, just play the game a lot and get a knowledge and understanding of the game, and you refine your decision making every run, basically. And it's like so crazy to think about the depth. And I also, like, in the video I watched of yours, where you analyze the run of someone else, I heard the word so often that you need, like, not only good decision making, but not to hesitate with your decisions. Like, use your instant kill, like cherry bombs, or like the ones that squish someone. I don't know, remember that name. Use them like right away when you have them off cooldown. Like, you need to make the good decisions, but you need to make them without, thinking about them, if that makes sense. Like, you need to make them, some decisions you need to make, like, hard to describe, but you need to make them like as a machine. Like, you punch them out and steamroll with them, and without like to thinking too long. Like, is this really the right placement? And before you place it, it's like already the bad decision at this point. And yeah, I feel like that's actually a really cool speed game. I will try it out myself, but let's get a little more into the episode. We talked about RNG, and you said, like, the best runner of yours, or like the top runners could, like, I heard in your video, could always get like a sub 330 if they're good enough. And I was like wondering, because RNG seems like a huge factor, why is like RNG only a matter of like minor seconds and not like a matter of making a run a really good one or a really bad one? Like, why is it so consistent still on the one hand? Because that, like, for example, confused me in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. So first of all, I wanted to praise that, like, just hearing you sort of talk about it, and like that, like, it can be very, very difficult to practice the game, quote unquote, because the only real practice is to play the game a lot and to be prepared for what might happen in the future. So already, just sort of like hearing your thought process about it, I think you could be a very successful Plants vs. Zombies speedrunner, because that's absolutely the right way to think about it. You have to play a lot, you have to sort of learn about the mechanics, but you can't possibly think, oh, 50% rule here, I'm at 48% right now, and this sun is on this cycle. Like, you can't
prepare for the run. You need to like just play the run and get the experience. It's like basically like every competitive game, you can't just learn like that one strategy. At one point you need to just be a little bit more creative and need that experience to play like against a new strategy. And like most speedruns are just like you follow that formula and you practice that formula to perfection, and then you might be a good speedrunner. But I feel like Plants vs. Zombies is like, you look at the formula and there is no formula. You just have these different rules, and then you do the best what you can do to your abilities with these rules. It's like pretty unique, I gotta admit.
It's so funny, and I'm gonna like music geek out on you for just a second here. But I sort of describe like Plants vs. Zombies as the jazz of speedrunning. And what I mean by that is, like, most of us kind of grew up, again, whether you were just playing like the recorder, or you played at middle school or things like that, with overall, like, again, kind of classical or more traditional, like, instrumental types of music, where you have the entire sheet of music printed out on you, and quarter note here, eighth note here, play in tune here, play softly here, play louder here, 8 measures of rest here. It's very, this type of thing here. And again, that's not to looked at like that would be more your Mario, right? Exactly what the piece of music looks like in front of you for the most part. I know all games have a little funny mechanics that you have to adjust to a little bit, but exactly, okay, if I perform, if I play perfectly in tune right here, right, or if I perform this, I'll get the flagpole glitch. And so a lot of speedruns that I've seen, throughout the years are just that. Like, again, the piece of music is very clearly right there, on the page for you, and all you have to do is play it. And again, I don't mean that with any sort of it's incredibly difficult, and I could not do it, and I never was that good of a classical musician anyway, for that sort of thing. But speedrunning is really the jazz, and what I mean by that is that you might have a little bit of a melody, and you might have some chord progressions written, but it's up to you to improvise the entire thing. And so you might know, okay, I have a 2-5-1 chord progression here, but you don't know until you're actually in that moment what notes are going to sound good or what the audience is going to react to. And then, the audience starts cheering. So then your conductor tells you, oh, we're going to play this one again. So, you pick up the solo again, and you're like, wow, this person's really feeling it. And then the saxophone player kind of gives you a nod, and then you go into improvising for a little bit. That to me is okay, you have a cone head here, but now you have 3 regular zombies here. And these zombies are slow, but you had good sun RNG here. And, all of these things coming together, it feels like jazz that we broadly know what every level is going to look like. We know approximately how much sun we're going to have throughout the course of a level. We know about how many sunflowers we should plant, about how many of the different types of plants. We usually know for most levels what the optimal plants are to take in each level. But in terms of actually executing it, in terms of actually playing that melody, it feels as much improvised as it is planned or, kind of put out to a T. And again, that's not that, jazz is better than classical. Again, I don't want to music geek too much out here, but it's just it's the idea that we're given a broad shape of what a level looks like, but it's not until we're actually in that moment and we sort of get the feel of how the level's going. We can look back at sort of what was done and where we think the level's going to go. But and that doesn't mean that you could just improvise and play whatever you want. Again, any musician would know that that's going to sound horrible. There are right things that you have to play, but it's not really until you're in the groove of things that exactly kind of what's going to come out of your instrument or what you're going to play on screen. And again, we were I guess this really didn't kind of tie back to your question too much. Actually, but just about
can I interrupt you real quick before we go to question? I find it so funny that you talked about jazz, because I played for 7 years saxophone myself in a school band and in an actual orchestra, and I also had on the final day of school I had a big solo I played on stage with saxophone. So I was totally understanding your story, but I feel it's a very good comparison. But actually, let's better go back to the question, because we might confuse the one or the other person. So I love that talk. Why was it so to explain it for not music nerds, why isn't RNG the biggest factor, and how can you be so consistent?
Exactly. So it all sort of has to do with the fact that there's so many of these micro RNG elements that over the course of a 3.5-hour run to complete any percent, our main category where you beat the main 50 levels during the game, basically the probabilities will always weigh themselves out. So again, there's some runs where it has a certain RNG moment, right? You're oh my goodness, and then I'm thinking Mario Sunshine or something like that. You need one particular outcome at one particular point in the run, or your run's dead. Or it costs you 3 minutes or something like that. Or I'm thinking Dampe or something like that.
Yeah.
And for OOT, any percent, again, if Dampe decides that you're getting bad RNG, your run could basically be dead for the most part.
Yeah.
But Plants vs. Zombies has so many little RNG moments that over the course of 3.5 hours, it almost always weighs itself out. It's almost if you flip heads or tails 100 times and you want it to always be heads, again, if you're relying on 1 or 2 or 3 coin tosses for your entire run, yeah, RNG could easily kill your run. But if you're relying on like thousands of them over the course of the run, it might make a little bit of difference. And, like you could certainly get an element of bad RNG, but just inevitably, like the bad RNG will be outweighed by the good RNG. Like, yeah, you got bad sun RNG on this level, but the next level you'll get good sun RNG. Or you get 2 bad levels in a row, but then 3 good and 1 bad and 2 good. And there's like, yeah, you got bad sun RNG, but the zombie speed RNG was absolutely perfect. And so like all of those things kind of come together in a way that, again, it's not so much what RNG you get. Like, yes, if you get bad RNG, it could cost you, again, 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here, 15 seconds here. But what's way more important is how did you react to that RNG? How did you make decisions to account for the chance of getting the bad RNG, but also the chance of getting the good RNG? And, a truly worst case scenario, you're never going to lose more than maybe 15 seconds. So again, even if you got 5, 10, 15 instances of those bad RNG and lost 15 seconds here, and here, again, inevitably, like you probably got some good RNG scattered throughout your run that maybe saved 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here, and so on. And so even though it may feel in the moment like, oh my God, I got the worst RNG ever on this level, I lost 30 seconds, like all of this crap happened, like my run is dead. The truth of the matter is, like, probably in some other level you would have gotten some G or like slightly above average RNG, and like, what's far more important is the decisions that you made. So again, there's no single run-ending event that can happen. There's nothing that will even cost you like 30 seconds or a minute in terms of like pure RNG. Now you can make mistakes that'll cost you 30 seconds or a minute. That's that's obviously a whole separate thing. Or you could make a lot of little bad decisions that add up to 30 seconds. Like, again, you hesitate for 2 seconds here, you're a little bit unoptimized in the order that you do things here, and so you lose 7 more seconds here and a half a second here and things like that. But yeah, again, kind of tying it back to the question that you had, it's not only about the decisions that you make, but of course, you want to make those decisions as quickly and as efficiently as you can. Like, we unfortunately don't have the luxury of saying, okay, like, here's where my sun's at, here's where the zombie's at, here's where I think the future waves are going to appear, here's the rows that I feel like are very weak. When you're in the moment, you probably you like see the wave, and then you have like a second to figure out exactly what you want to do for that wave and exactly how you want to prepare for the next wave. So again, it's all about, again, kind of getting that feel or that jazz, or like kind of getting that notion of like, okay, like, I've seen something that looks not exactly like this before, but I've seen something that looks a lot like this before. This is how I've reacted to it in the past and have been successful. So here's how I'm going to sort of adjust for it and account for it in the future. So again, yeah, it is ultimately a speed game. You want to make your decisions quickly. You want to get those zombies off screen quickly. And, the one runner that I was sort of, providing some feedback for, ultimately he was making a lot of very, very good decisions, but he was waiting just like a second or two, like, ooh, should I plant a sunflower here? I can't just, no, I'm going to plant a sunflower here. And, ooh, I see the zombie here. Do I want to use the cherry bomb plant? Okay, I will. And like, he was making the right decisions. I think he just maybe didn't quite have the confidence or quite the experience to say like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, this is the right decision. And again, like any game, the more hours you put into it, the more types of scenarios that you've seen, the more, the more crazy situations that the games put you in, the more comfortable you become sort of dealing with those, and the faster that you're able to react to and execute on the plan or the decision to defeat the wave or to defeat the level.
Yeah, I love that. I think the original part from where my question was coming was, I looked at the leaderboard and I saw like, the world record is like 6 minutes faster than the second place, and I was like, can you beat like this record consistently, or is at that point already part of RNG also a real factor? Which probably is, but you can probably tell us the story.
Exactly. So I'll give you, it sort of takes a little bit of like PvZ history to like sort of figure out like where, like how we got there and why. So it's not an accident. And again, this is with all the praise in the world. The current world record holder is like truly a savant, like just like totally understands the game, and so rarely makes bad decisions that, like, again, what would take all of us like hours to get, or I mean, hundreds of attempts to get like the type of luck to bring us up to that level he could get like on a pretty consistent basis. But again, sort of going back like, to the dark ages of PvZ running, and honestly before I even started, like really we didn't even know about the 50% rule. Like we had some vague understanding, like, wow, okay, well, yeah, if I kill the final wave fast, the level will end faster. And like, yeah, it seems like when I kill the zombies a little bit faster, the waves appear a little bit faster, but we didn't like really understand the mechanics behind it. And so in like any speed game, what started off as like a 4.5 to 5 hour speed game, like slowly got whittled down to 4 hours. And that was about where I came in. I think the world record was 3 hours and 55 minutes. And then I kind of came up with a strategy that like helped shave about 2 minutes off of that. And so then I was the world record holder for about a year, maybe a year and a half or something like that as a result of these strategies improvements. But then, the old world record holder sort of adapted some of my strategies and took on, some of his own strategies. And then we learned more about the mechanics. And so I improved and he improved. And then again, sort of as the game started to blow up a little bit and we got more people that were involved in the speedrunning community and the game became a little bit more global, there's a speedrunner from China. He's the world record holder now. Had put a lot of time into like some like YouTube videos and like playing through the game, and he really understood the mechanics incredibly well, but had never tried to like actually speedrun the game. And so then when he came again with his like, again, just like incredible analytical ability. Like, again, like I work in a pretty analytical field. Like I study something pretty analytical in school. So like, I'm not trying to be too humble here, but like, he's just like in a totally different world of like, it's almost, we're talking a little bit and it brought up the analogy of like speed chess or something like that, where like, you can make the right decision, but if you don't make the right decision quick enough, you're going to run out of time and your opponent might beat you like due to that. And there's definitely a similarity. Like you might make a pretty good decision, I'll move my knight here or I'll move my pawn here. But like if someone else can plan 3, 4, 5 moves ahead better and faster than you, then there's almost no chance that you're going to, to beat them. Again, unless you get like the 1 in a billion RNG and just everything goes your way and everything's perfect. And obviously chess doesn't have any luck versus Plants vs. Zombies does have luck. And again, it's non-deterministic in the way that I said, but it's almost the reason that he's so good is for those very reasons. He's planning not only for the current wave and the next wave, but like the next and the next and the next waves. And he's put probably 30, I think he said about 3,500 hours into the game. I've only put about 1,500 hours into the game. And so again, he's truly seen everything and knows, okay, the last time I tried to do this, I didn't get a good 50% roll. And so therefore I'm going to put this plant just one space different than I did before. And then I will get the 50% roll and then I can move on to the next wave. And, like it's like he's got this like whole like mastermind, like mapped out, the entire level mapped out just incredibly well. And obviously like, does a tremendous job. And so like, again, when we're talking about like how to improve, what we have to do a lot of times in Plants vs. Zombies is, you have to sort of like study other runners' runs and say, okay, why did they make the decisions that they did? Was it a good decision or not? And you have the benefit of hindsight. The runner at the time doesn't have that benefit. But like, so what I'll do a lot of times is I'll like look at his runs and I'll play through his game as if playing it as if I would have. And usually on every level, there's 1 or 2 or 3 decisions that he makes a little bit differently than I would have. And so then I'll go back and I'll say, why did he make those decisions? And was his decision the right one? And occasionally I would have made the right decision, but obviously 80, 90, 95% of the time, he probably made the right decision. And then, oh, I see, like he was planning for this because he knew that this was on this kind of timer, because like a lot of the plants have like different levels of cooldown. So if you can sort of like have a broad idea of, okay, in 30 seconds, I'm going to need this plant. In 15 seconds, I'm going to need this plant. I think I'm going to have this amount of sun at this point in the level. And again, if you can kind of plan for all those variables, then obviously it makes it, easier to execute upon your plan and not get yourself into a scenario where like, oh God, I didn't plan for this one thing and now I've lost 15 seconds or 30 seconds because I made a mistake or because I did something dumb and I lost a plant or I, got a bad zombie that I wasn't prepared for and things like that. So, a lot of times, again, it's a matter of, again, of kind of like getting that experience and, getting the benefit of having other runners. And sometimes I'll even watch runners that maybe don't have quite as good a time that I do. And I'll sort of see like their thought process and their decision making. Because again, maybe I would have made better decisions than them on average, but it doesn't mean that there's not anything to learn from their runs. And sometimes they'll have a really good level or they'll have something that I didn't think of and I'll be like, ooh, like, that's interesting. Or, wow, they reacted to this one wave really, really, really well. Maybe the next time I get a similar wave, I can handle it in that wave. And even though maybe they didn't get the best time, the same time that they would have overall in the level, they did one or two things like really well that I feel like I can kind of learn from. So a lot of it is actually like, I maybe feel like in other games, you don't benefit a lot necessarily like from watching another SMB1 speedrunner, like, oh, wow, he performed flagpole glitch more consistent that I did, or things like that, or his execution, he can jump the piranha plants perfectly, or in 4-2 he can do the little trick like really, really consistently, and I can't do that, and I just need to learn how to do that. For us, it's more like, wow, like what other experiences have other runners experienced? How did they deal with it? What went right? What went wrong? And how can I do the right stuff? And how can I avoid the wrong stuff? Given that the next time I run the game, it's going to be completely different.
I love the big variety of strategy. Like you said that you can learn from basically every runner, like a new strategy or one tiny thing that can benefit you. And it's so funny. I really love that you mentioned chess, because I also played chess for 7 and 8 years in a chess club and went to tournaments and stuff. And blitz chess, like where you have to pull out good moves very quickly, is like, it's so like close to being like what Plants vs Zombies speedruns are. Like, you have to quickly make the good decisions, otherwise you lose so much time and you will in the end lose your run to that. It's like, I really love this. I definitely will give it a try. I have a few more questions to round it up a little nicer this episode. And one question is like, I think we talked greatly about this. I feel like very prepared for a speedrun myself now. I actually bought the game on Steam yesterday, so.
Excellent. Yeah, when you're streaming, I'll come there to cheer you on.
But the question I want to ask is like, what else if like there's someone like right now listening who gets similar feelings than I get and be like, hey, I want to start speedrunning Plants vs Zombies. What do they need to like? Where do they need to get started besides just playing the game and getting a lot of knowledge, as we just talked about? And we got a lot of knowledge out of this episode already. What else are good starting points for them? Where good resources, like, because I feel like people really don't know where they should be looking for resources. Maybe you can give us a good insight on that to get everyone who is interested in speedrunning Plants vs Zombies is getting a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So of course, my first recommendation would be like, buy the game, play it for fun. Don't watch a speed run. Don't watch anything like that. Like, play the game for fun. And like, if you just find I remember what I learned about Plants vs Zombies. This was back in like 2009 or 2010, like right when the Game of the Year edition came out, which is the most common one that we play on Steam. Like, I was just like, my brother was home from college and like just playing it casually because one of his friends had introduced me to it. And I was just like, I was watching over his shoulder and I was just like, oh my God, I love this. You get all the cool plants, you get this, you get like, and we played RTSs together and things like that. So it was very cool. So my first advice would be just like, play the game, and like, if you don't like, if you don't like love it, like if you don't love, like, the game's like it can be played, it's very fun, it's very comical, it doesn't take itself seriously, like, even though there's a lot of like very serious, like cool math stuff going on behind the scenes. Like, my first advice, of course, would be play the game all the way through, play the mini games, play the puzzles, play the survivals, like get all the achievements and accomplishments and things like that. Like, have fun with the game, because like that's really it's bread and butter. Like, even though it's a beautiful speed game, and again, in my completely unbiased opinion, one of the best speed games of all time, like it's such a fun game to play casually too, that like you really won't be disappointed when you when you boot it up and just play it for fun. But getting into some more specifics, if you're like, oh yeah, I've played this game, I love it, I want to get into the speed run, like everything they're talking about today sounds so cool. I think the next step would be there's two things. We do have a community Discord. I can, I know you have the link, but I can.
Yeah, I will put it in the description.
In the description, again, we're very welcoming. We probably have like I think it's got to be, a couple hundred members at this point, and it's, active daily. We're always talking about new strategies and things like that. We were talking about new runners. Some of our new runners have actually changed the types of plants that we take on levels. So again, we value input from all runners, old and new. Very, very welcoming. It's not toxic. It's not, it's not super competitive. Sometimes you get those discords that are and I think it also kind of attracts a certain type of gamer, like people who strategy games, who are a little bit more again, a little bit more strategic or things like that. So as a result, you're not kind of going, let's go. You don't get too many people that are kind of the rah types or things like that too. So the Discord that we have is a great resource for any questions or, getting little bits of feedback or things like that you want. But we also have a lot of really, really good resources on speedrun.com. If you look in kind of the guides and the resources section within our speedrun.com page for Plants vs. Zombies, we have not one, not two, not three, but 4 different tutorials that I've made for the any percent category, simply because over the years, about every 6 months or so, I'm like, boy, that old tutorial was really outdated. We do so many things differently now. I want to people updated. So I'm not saying you have to go through all the tutorials start to finish, but certainly look at the most recent tutorial in whatever category that you're most interested in and sort of see just what we have to talk about. You'll learn about the 50% rule. You'll sort of see in action. I usually what I'll do is I'll pre-record a run and then I'll go through and talk about my own run sort of with the benefit of hindsight and say, well, look what I did here. This was right. Look what I did here. This was bad. And sort of help the runners sort of get their feet wet. Because again, although there's a tutorial, I can't tell you, in every single situation, what you could possibly do. Again, it's the chess analogy. You can sort of get those first 4 or 5 moves mapped out pretty well, but then after that, you gotta you gotta know what your opponent's doing. You gotta be willing to adapt. And so we sort of talk through why did I make this decision? Why do I think it was the right decision or wrong decision? What are some areas I think I could improve in? What are, what levels went well and why did they go well? What levels went poorly and why did they go poorly? And what was an instance of RNG, but not only just, I got bad RNG on this level, I was helpless, but did I react to it properly or not and things like that. So the tutorial here I think could be very, very beneficial. And we also have more tutorials that are built out for some of the individual levels. If you're more into shorter categories that don't take 3.5 hours, we do have a minigames category that takes about an hour, 45 minutes for a relatively seasoned runner. We also have an all puzzles category that takes about maybe 15 minutes for a seasoned runner. And there's a lot of levels. We have an ILs or an individual level category as well for a lot of the different levels and some of the survivals and things like that, where some of those runs could range just from 2 minutes to about 11 minutes or so, maybe for some of the longer individual levels. So again, whether you like a short run or a long run, we do have resources for you. We also have some Google Doc and Google Drives written out that sort of in detail. We actually got a hold a little bit of some of the source code for one of the versions of the game. So that's where we were able to figure out a lot of these specific mechanics. We have some of that spelled out in some of our community resources and so forth. So again, whether you're into more the reading types of tutorials or the more visual types of tutorials, or you just enjoy kind of chatting about it with someone one-on-one in the Discord, or asking the community questions, again, those are kind of the 3 areas that I'd say to go to. Again, play the game casually, have fun with it, enjoy it. Number 2, go to speedrun.com, go to our guides and our resources section, because there's a lot of really, really good stuff there that'll help you get your feet wet in terms of even simple things like what plants do I take in each level, what order do I generally plant the plants in each level, and you can kind of get again start getting some experience there, and then kind of get into some of the more highly technical written guides and things like that, and bouncing some new strategy ideas off of our community in Discord. Again, those are sort of the 3 areas I would say to go into if you're in.
I love that you have so many resources and also like more deep written guides. I think it's very fitting for this game because there is no clear path you can follow. There's so many variables you have to understand and be flexible with. And I will totally once I finish just the game once again on PC and I enjoyed it because it's one of it's a classic game in my opinion. It's really cool game. I played it 2 or 3 times before today. finished it, and I never, was bored of it. I always enjoyed it, was always, playing through it, got never, bored of it, was like kind of addicted to finish it. And yeah, I mean, I will definitely try out some speedruns. But one question, I think we already, my final question is normally like, describe the game for someone who's never seen the speedrun in a few words they may be picking up. I think we did like fantastic already in that point with like this entire episode. So my final question, because it's also related to my video, is like, resets versus no resets, and when to what to do with Plants vs Zombies, because we talked about that experience aspect. I feel like no reset runs can be also valuable, although your run sucks, but you still get that experience. And so, yeah, what's your take on that to finish up this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess kind of dealing with in two parts. If I had to describe the game in like 10 words or less, again, I'm sure as you've heard, I'm happy to talk about it more than 10 words. But really, the beauty of it is that it's a decision-making speed run, and it's as short as that. And as a result, really almost one of a kind in the speedrunning world.
Yeah.
No frame perfect tricks. No difficult glitches, nothing that's mechanically excruciating. It's all about like the strategy, the decisions, the analytical nature. So again, I would say that like in terms of whether you should pick up the game or not. Again, if you love strategy, if you love things that are analytical, and if you're the jazz musician, quote unquote, that doesn't. That's okay with things not being exactly the same every single time, then Plants vs. Zombies is definitely the run for you. And again, there's other people that sort of prefer, I like things to be the same every time. I like to learn exactly what to do the same way every time. But again, if you're a little bit, you don't mind kind of thinking outside the box and adapting and, strategizing your way through 3.5 hours, again, Plants vs. Zombies is a beautiful, beautiful speed game that I certainly couldn't recommend anymore.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of getting into it and resets versus no resets, again, I would say probably until you have 20 or 30 full playthroughs of the game, don't reset. There's no like real. Maybe if you take a death, but honestly, probably even if you don't. There's really no single RNG aspect that can happen, towards the beginning of the run that is so crippling that you couldn't get a better time, just by having played through the game, getting some more experience, familiarizing yourself with some of those levels. Again, there's no single event that can happen so early on that in every one of your first 10, 15 attempts, you're probably going to be improving by the order on the order of minutes, if not like intervals of 15, 20, 30, 40 seconds, so no little 5 to 10 second, 2-second RNG thing that happens early on is going to shut you down. Like, even if it's frustrating, again, that just means that later on in the game, the game really does have a way of like evening itself out throughout the course of an entire run. So, play through the game, complete your first couple of attempts. Like, even if a couple levels are bad, we had a run, and actually in one of my own runs, I was over 1.5 minutes behind going into the last hour of the game, and I PB'd by like 30 seconds or something like that, simply because, again, I got a little bit better than average RNG, and I played super well on the last couple of levels, and I didn't know I had that much time to save, but I got a couple, gold splits, and just found myself with an incredible run that, again, it would have been very, it could have been very, tempting earlier on in that run to say, oh, I'm 1 minute behind, 1.5 behind, like just reset. But again, even at, I've been kind of in the top 3 for a while now. Again, even at the higher levels, you can still significantly improve by just finishing runs and seeing it through to the end, and obviously if you're ever in a mental place where you're like, I'm too frustrated to play, like, you should never, any game you should never, kind of continue it, when you've reached that point. But, play through the runs, and again, only maybe when you get to kind of the top couple where you're like 30 seconds behind after the first 4 levels, okay, then, maybe go ahead and reset that one, or you're 15 seconds behind after just 1 or 2 levels. That's only like 2 minutes into the run. All right, maybe then you can go ahead and start to do some early resets. But for the most part, again, what I'd say to 99% of runners, like, just complete runs, keep going, practice what you can. We even have a save file editor such that if you want to go back and practice a specific level or with a specific like setup or things like that, we have a way that you can that you can practice that level.
That's good.
A couple of times. So again, like, in like anything, I know a lot of your other runners will probably say this too, but try to break it down into smaller parts, break it down into individual levels, be like, okay, like what can I do to, again, like practice like planting the plants as fast as I can, or reacting to this type of thing as fast as I can. Those little types of things you'll definitely benefit from, but the much bigger benefit again is the the decision making, the strategy element that you can really only get through experience, and really only get through finishing the game a number of times and just learning how to adapt to all the crazy things that the game can throw at you.
Yeah. Wow. No, I loved this. I loved every second of this podcast recording, man. Yeah, it really sounds like this, like, just get your experience. Like, you need to do it like 100 or 1,000 times to understand the right decisions. And man, I'm so excited to do speedruns. Like, as soon as I finish it, I might stream it, I might not stream it, but I will let you guys know when I do my runs, and I will show you how I will do. I think it was an awesome episode. Hope everybody was as excited to listen to WarMech as I was, because I love this. I will definitely try to speedrun this game. Thank you for being here, and thank you for everybody listening to this point in the stream or in the podcast when I upload this. That were our episodes. Thank you all for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks so much for having me, Flash. I really appreciate it. It's been a genuine pleasure. Again, I'm so excited. I want to get through all 20 of your episodes too. Again, it's so great to hear about all these different games. And again, I really think it's a podcast like this is really invaluable to the speedrunning community on the whole. So thanks for everything that you've done. It's been a genuine pleasure. Absolutely. And again, so again, we'll definitely be in touch. And again, I appreciate the opportunity of being here.
No problem, man. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was nice words.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Hope I didn't promise too much for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. Like, I said it so often, but this was one of my favorite recordings. He's a great guy. I think our dynamic was so good. We talked a little bit after the stream and before the stream. Like, I recorded this on my stream, and we had some really funny conversations. Some funny things happened, and like really good conversations. If you want to be a part of that, like communicating with us and asking questions, or just having a nice chat with us outside of the regular recording, then I please encourage you to check out my stream. There's some other content I do there as well, like speedrunning myself. But yeah, would like to see some new faces there from this podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And I don't know what episode I can bring out next week, but I will try my best to get out another episode next week. And yeah, I hope you are now playing Plants vs. Zombies and try to speedrun that game because of this episode. I would encourage you all to do that. But yeah, see you till the next episode. Bye.